when you're a new mom and you're not used to having a new baby around and you don't know you don't realize like the crying and the symptoms of a baby, you think there's something wrong with him all the time every time he cries.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Okay, so let's move you up now on your side. Becoming a parent is an absolute joy, and most people say it's one of the greatest moments of their lives. But there's no question it's also filled with challenges. Hi, my name is Harvey Karp. I'm a pediatrician, and for almost 30 years I've helped parents understand and care for their new babies. As you know, your top job as a new parent is to love your baby like crazy. But after you've showered her with affection, your two next important jobs are to feed her successfully and to calm her when she cries. Fortunately, feeding a baby is usually pretty easy, and if you do run into trouble, there are many places you can turn for help. Soothing a screaming baby, on the other hand, can be surprisingly tough.
And I don't always figure this out because he's well fed at this moment, and he should be passed out after great feeding. But as we can see, this is the coughing, grunting kid.
We had no idea that it could be that difficult and that she could cry day after day after day. You know, you get really desperate.
Because you do think that you get home from the hospital and you have this image of you with your sweet babe falling asleep, you know, all cuddled up in you. And I swear it has not been one time that he's done that yet. And it has been frustrating for me as a mother, too, to think that I'm doing a bad job. They never really tell you how intense it is until you live it.
Parents are often told that when their baby cries, it's because she's having pains or indigestion or has swallowed air. So you would think that from the swallowed air, he got upset.
Right.
And yet, certainly,
But he's like in the...
he doesn't have pain now. Pain would not go away in a second. It turns out that very, very few babies are crying because of gas pain. Many babies are like smoke alarms. They make one big shrieky sound no matter what the problem is. And you can't tell from a smoke alarm if the house is on fire or if you just burnt some toast. Many babies blast out their pain cry, even when they just have a little burp. Although it's completely instinctual to want to soothe your screaming baby, it's not at all instinctual knowing how to do it. Baby calming is a skill. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are some cultures around the world where babies cry an average of 30 seconds or 60 seconds. In other words, they don't go on and on and on. Their mothers respond to them quickly, and the babies calm down quickly. So there's got to be some way to help our crying babies. And there is. Watch Noah, as his crying simply melts away when I use some of the techniques you're about to learn. And then this last part is up and across. This is the belt that holds the whole wrap together. And pull it very slow and tuck it in. Now you can see that didn't calm him down. But now let's put him on his side. Magic? A miracle? No, it's a reflex that all babies are born with, that, believe it or not, will turn off their cries and screams almost like turning off a light switch. You're about to meet a group of brand new parents who came together to learn how to see the world through their baby's eyes and how to soothe their infant's fussiness. Fortunately, calming unhappy babies is easy with the help of some simple techniques used for centuries by the world's most gifted baby calmers. These techniques are based on 3 wonderful new ideas. The first idea is the revolutionary concept called the 4th trimester. Babies are very immature when they're born. And they need lots of cuddling and rocking and shushing. That's what kept them calm and happy inside the womb. And that's why you should think of the first 3 months of your baby's life as your 4th trimester. The calming reflex is an amazing and totally natural way for you to soothe your baby's cries in minutes. And finally, the 5 S's are 5 incredibly effective techniques for turning on your crying baby's calming reflex and replacing her tears with tranquility. Now, I invite you to sit back and join me as I visit with these families and they gather together in a class and in their homes to learn how to help their babies become the happiest babies on the block. God knows you were probably more than ready to have your baby after 9 long months of pregnancy. But in many ways, our babies are unprepared for the world. Many parents imagine that their new babies will be almost as bright and responsive as a 4-month-old. But unlike animals whose babies are mature at birth, our newborns are more like fetuses than infants. Baby horses are able to stand and even run on their very first day of life. And they have to be able to do this, or they're not going to survive. Our babies are very immature by comparison. Our survival does not depend on running. It depends on having big brains and being intelligent. Our babies are born early because their brains are so big they have to come out. They can't wait inside any longer. They can't wait for the brain to finish its development. So in many ways, the first 3 months of our baby's life, they're still a fetus. And that's why I call the first 3 months the 4th trimester. During this 4th trimester, babies often get upset because they're missing the sensations that surrounded them before their birth. So the question is, what's it like inside a uterus? Well, there's constant sound. The sound is a little bit louder than a vacuum cleaner. 24 hours a day, that's what your baby's been hearing. There's constant jiggly movement. You can imagine what it's like when you're walking up the stairs or in an exercise class. That's a tremendous amount of movement that the baby is feeling. And then, of course, the third thing is there's confinement. Babies are very tightly packaged up inside the uterus. They don't have room to move around. They're very cozy. Because mothers have known intuitively for thousands of years that the way to calm their baby down is to imitate these qualities of the uterus. But until today, no one has known why that works. It isn't that it reminds the baby of being inside the uterus. What it is that babies have a reflex called the calming reflex. And this reflex is the automatic shut-off switch for a baby's crying. Babies are run by many, many reflexes. They cry, for example. You didn't teach your baby how to cry. You didn't have to teach Sydney how to cry. They're born knowing how to cry. They're born knowing how to swallow. They're born knowing how to suck. All of those are built-in reflexes. Mm-hmm. Well, an amazing new discovery is that they're also born with a calming reflex. That's literally an off switch for crying. If a doctor hits your knee, your foot goes out. It's not any great surprise. You know it's going to happen because reflexes are automatic behaviors. If your doctor hits your knee but does it in the wrong place or does it too softly, nothing happens. For a reflex to be initiated, you have to do it exactly right. And if you don't do exactly right, it doesn't work well.
It's amazing because she'll fight me, and then I'll find that position or that right jiggle, and then she just turns into jello. Mm-hmm. And I just... I'm there, Dad. Thanks.
Yeah, because it's a reflex. Mm-hmm. And that's how quickly it can work. When you do it exactly right, boom.
Right.
It really helps. Anyone can do these things. Can anyone learn how to do a knee reflex? Oh, you just have a knack with knee reflexes. I mean, anyone can learn how to do a knee reflex. And anyone can learn how to trigger their baby's calming reflex with just a little bit of practice and a little bit of trial and error. But unlike your knee reflex, which has only one way of being turned on, there are 5 different ways to turn on your baby's calming reflex. I call them the 5 S's. The first S is swaddling or tight wrapping. The second is the side or stomach position. The third is shushing or white noise. The 4th S is swinging or jiggly movements. And the 5th S is sucking. The first S is swaddling. Tight swaddling with the arms down. That keeps your baby's movements from accidentally upsetting her. Yet it often confuses parents and grandparents because at times tight wrapping will make your baby cry even harder. But stick with it, please, and you'll see that wrapping will become your new best friend. You're not going to be successful calming your baby unless you start with the swaddling. But the swaddling by itself will not calm your baby down in most instances. In fact, some babies get upset when they're swaddled first off. You'll be most successful swaddling your baby if you use a square blanket. And be sure it's big enough to wrap all the way around and tuck it in front. That's why mothers around the world have done it for thousands and thousands of years. Because the swaddling naturally makes a baby feel back home. In the United States, sometimes we think that it deprives a baby of their constitutional rights, or we think that they need their freedom. But a new baby doesn't need freedom. What a new baby needs is to feel protected and safe. Swaddling is very misunderstood because so often people wrap their baby's arms and then the babies seem to fight and struggle. And so parents give up on swaddling because they think that their baby doesn't like it.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, babies are packaged like that in the uterus, so they are used to having their hands up. But you can't wrap a baby like that because the hands get out immediately. So even though this is a bit of an unusual position for a baby, this helps tremendously because once her arms are wrapped, as you've discovered already, she won't upset herself by flailing around. The pattern of wrapping is down, up, or the abbreviation for that is doo-doo. That's the easy way to remember. Hey, sweet girl. So the line goes right behind her neck, and it's down, up, down, up. So the first corner is down with the arms straight at her side, and it's very snug. It's not unusual for babies to fuss a little bit when you start doing the wrapping. Underneath you, tuck it and snug it just a little bit so that arm stays down. That's the down. Next comes the up, and we'll bring this up, just up to her shoulder. So this is holding the second arm down, and we just tuck this around. Snug it again, and bring it down just a tiny, tiny bit, like you're tying a package. And then the last up is up and across. This is the belt that holds it all together. And we'll go all the way around. And snug it a little bit more. And sometimes you have enough to even tuck around in the little corner there. Okay, sweet girl. Now let's lift you up. And put you on your side. And very, very good. If your baby's arms sneak out, the wrapping will not work. You have to keep them very securely at her side. The blanket should be about as tight as the elastic waistband of your pants at the end of your pregnancy. For some babies, wrapping is wonderful for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months for sleeping. But certainly the first 3 months is the most important time for a baby.
Important time.
Important because it helps her feel back at home. She may struggle, and you'll say, sweetheart, I know what's best for you. You may think you don't want to be wrapped up, but you're going to see that you're going to be much happier when you're wrapped up. Right? You say, well, I remain to be convinced. Well, first thing you do is fold the corner of the blanket down, and you put her on top of it so that that's right behind her neck.
Right.
And it's down, up. So the first wrap is down, the arm is straight at her side, and you pull it very, very snugly and tuck it underneath her. Tuck it and snug it so that pull on this edge so the arm stays at the side. The next fold is up, and right away I'm going to get that second arm at her side and fold this around. It's okay if her legs are straight, it's okay if they're folded. The legs don't matter, it's the arms that matter. Next we do down, but this is very important. You have to do it down just a tiny bit, kind of like you're wrapping a package. Don't do it all the way, just a tiny bit. And then this last fold is up and across like a belt. And this is what holds it all together. You'll find that swaddling will become the most important first step for calming your baby. Now please watch one more time, step by step. as I do the doo-doo wrap and swaddle Ava to calm her down. The first arm is at her side, and I'm going to bring the blanket down and across her body. I'll tuck it underneath and snug it so that right arm stays at her side. The second wrap will be up. I'm going to lift up the corner and bring it over her shoulder and make sure that that other arm is securely at her side. Snug it and bring the corner down just a tiny, tiny bit, just a smidge, and hold it right in the middle of her chest. Finally, the last up will be up and across. This is the belt that holds it all together. It'll wrap around and keep both of her arms comfortably at her side. Make it extra snug at the end and tuck it around. It's a nice little package. Now you can see the wrapping by itself didn't calm her down. And that's usually the way it is. If she's rolled onto her side now, though, or her tummy, let's see how she does. The second S is the side or stomach position. Of course, the best position for your baby sleeping is the back. But for calming a crying baby, the side or the stomach really works the best. Now, obviously that didn't calm him down. But again, wrapping is not meant to calm him down. Now let's do the second S, which is to put him on his side, facing down a little bit. What happened? It's like a reflex. That's right. Let's just roll you on your tummy for just a second, sweet girl. Let's put her on her back. Now when I put her on his tummy, she got calm, and now I'm going to put her on her back again. Did you say calm? Well, she said no. The back is a position of alarm and feeling like falling. This is a position called the reverse breastfeeding position. And it's just one of the positions that are useful for babies. A lot of fathers hold their babies like this, called the football hold.
Yeah, this is comfortable.
Hey, man. The body angle is really important. You'll see when you do this windshield wiper thing, if she's more on her back. I've had some kids, if they're like a fraction of an inch towards the back, they get upset. A fraction of an inch towards the stomach, they calm down. If I wrapped Asher, but I didn't do it tightly enough, he'd still be fighting. If I wrapped him and I kept him on his back, he would still be fighting. But when I turned his sweet little wrapped body onto his side stomach, it was an instantaneous change. So she said, well, the side was okay for a moment, but it's not enough, right? The wrapping's not enough. The side is not enough. She says, show me what you got. She says she needs a little bit more help. So the next thing I'm going to do is add shushing. The third S is shushing, or white noise. Now, roll you over.
It's amazing.
Have you ever noticed how calming the sound of the wind can be? Well, for babies, shushing is 100 times more soothing. A loud shush may seem rude to us, but in a baby's language it means, I love you, don't worry, everything is fine. It's a loud shush. And in fact, you shush as loud as the baby is crying so that they can hear you. Otherwise, they don't even pay attention to what you're doing. Now let's watch some crying babies as I shush them. And watch their eyes. See if you can tell when the calming reflex gets switched on. The rapping itself does not calm him down.
No.
But now let's add some of the other S's. There are many types of strong white noise that work to settle fussy babies. Some parents use white noise machines. Some turn radios onto static in between stations, or they use the sounds of appliances like vacuums or hair dryers. Or better yet, use tape recordings of those sounds. You may think those sounds are too loud, but remember, in the uterus, the sound your baby heard was louder than a vacuum. Hair dryers can be especially loud, so if you're using one for more than a few minutes, turn it down or move it away at least 6 feet.
It's unbelievable.
And the fourth S is swinging, or jiggly movement. Have you ever wondered why people call newborns bouncing baby boys and girls? It's because they love jiggly movement. Now you can see her head is jiggling a little bit. The head is like jello on a plate. I'm not holding her head and keeping it from jiggling. I want it to jiggle. That's what triggers the calming reflex. If you do this with big movements like this, it won't work. If you do it holding the head, it doesn't work well. The head has to be free to move a little bit.
I tried doing that today and I had trouble with it.
It takes, all of these things take practice. I mean, one thing is true. I mean, I've been doing this almost every day for the last 20 years. So I do have the techniques down. But having said that, they're not that complicated. It takes some practice, but you'll see that once you get the hang of it, it'll be completely natural for you. There's something called shaken baby syndrome, where the head is shaken so violently that the brains are shaken inside, and that can absolutely cause damage to a baby. They also call it whiplash syndrome, because the head is going back and forth so vigorously. The movement that I'm talking about is not shaking. It's jiggling. It's exactly the same motion that your baby felt inside the uterus. And you can do jiggly movement like this all day long, and it wouldn't hurt your baby. In fact, it's just the opposite. It makes him feel very comfortable, very relaxed, very much back at home. There's stimulation that's good stimulation, and there's stimulation that's overwhelming stimulation. The rhythmic, hypnotizing stimulation of the swing is good. It makes her feel good. It's nourishing for her. People often ask, will she get spoiled by it? Will she get used to it? And actually, she is used to it. She used to have it 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So now, if she only gets it 12 hours a day, you've already cut back 50%. And gradually, over the next couple of months, you'll decrease it even more. But I have no concern about spoiling her during these first 3 months, because fundamentally, she's still a fetus, and you can't spoil a fetus. This is called the milkshake position. For obvious reasons. This is a wonderful way of burping a baby. And I'm going to put my feet on the ground. They're about as far apart as my shoulders, and my knees are together. And I just move my knees back and forth. You can start by going slowly, and then you make it smaller and faster. My hands are open, and you can see her head just kind of jiggling between my two hands.
Right.
And if she gets upset, then you can pick up the speed and do it a little bit faster.
Okay.
And as she calms down, you can do it more slowly.
Okay.
I love this position because when it's 11 o'clock at night and you're exhausted, it takes very little energy. You're just kind of, you can be resting there, and just your knees are going back and forth a little bit. It used to be that we had people in the home to help us, or neighbors would come over, and we didn't need mechanical devices like a swing. You would just pass your baby along to someone else, and then you'd do your work. But we don't have that help today.
I personally have had to rock him the entire time, and I have to tell you, my arms are just about to fall off by the end of the day.
Babies are very sensitive to motion, and they love sleeping in the swing. But there are some things you have to know before you put your baby in the swing. First, the baby should be swaddled tightly. But let's put him in the swing, wrapped. And I'm going to put the little strap between his legs. You have to put it between his legs so that he doesn't slide through the hole. Second, you have to belt your baby into the seat so that she can't fall out. Third, the seat should be reclined all the way back. And fourth, you have to use the fast speed. The slow speed is not effective. That's the way swings work the best. When a baby is fussing when you put him or her in the swing, you grab the swing from behind and you jiggle it vigorously. This is the jello head jiggle. And his head is kind of going boing, 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 like that. Just like it felt inside of your tummy when you were walking up the stairs. And you do this for 10 seconds or so. And then once he settles down, you turn it on the fast speed.
You can already see his eyelids kind of.
Did you notice that?
Yeah. Instantly he started to calm. That's wonderful.
One other thing that you have to understand about swings, they're not meant for calming a crying baby. You have to calm your baby first and then put your baby in the swing. And the fifth S is sucking. Sucking is like the icing on the cake. It's the last S, but certainly not the least. Suckling your baby at the breast is one of nature's most powerful ways of calming a baby. But if you're not nursing, or when you need a break, there are a couple of good options ready for you and your baby. For example, you can offer her your finger, or you can give her a pacifier. Some babies take pacifiers easily, but some need a little bit of training. Once she starts to suck on the pacifier, I push down on it a little bit, like it's going to fall out of her mouth. I want her to think she's losing it. What is a baby's response? It's to suck harder. So many people think to get a baby to keep a pacifier, you push it and keep it in place. It's just the opposite. You use reverse psychology. The more you do that, the more her muscles will be trained to keep the pacifier in her mouth. When she's sucking, I'm just going to pull it back. But see how she can hold it in her mouth even when I'm trying to knock it out a little bit. Here are a few rules of pacifier use. If you're breastfeeding, don't give your baby a pacifier until the feeding is going really well. Never dip your baby's pacifier in honey or syrup. And don't hang it around your baby's neck. It's a choking hazard. As you practice the 5 S's, you may find that when your baby is really wailing, he may not be able to calm down with just 1 or 2 of the S's. Here, you'll notice that the calming isn't quite working with just the swaddling, swinging, and shushing. Some babies respond to the side or stomach position, and some respond to the swaddling the most. And some babies need it all, and they need it big. Here, she's having all 5 of the S's at the same time. Some of my patients call this the cuddle cure because it works so well for fussy babies. When you're calming your baby, you're really dancing with him or her. And the more intensely she's crying, the more intense you are with your jiggly movements and your loud shushing. And then as your baby calms down, then you settle down. Then you decrease the intensity that you're using. Another reason that I love these 5 S's is because fathers can do it as well as moms can. As a matter of fact, for some dads, we can even do it better than moms because fathers are a little bit more willing to be jiggly or noisy because it takes that vigorous stimulation when a baby is really crying. So it's great fun. It sounds odd, but it actually can be great fun when she cries because you'll sweep her up and you'll settle her down and it makes her feel good. So he's on his side, kind of on his stomach.
Right, and the jiggle.
And the jiggle, and the shushing, and the wrapping. And he's not even sucking right now. He doesn't even have all 5 of the S's. Now it's even just, he's doing fine with just 4 of the S's. And now that he's calmer, he's not even getting the shushing. When you first started wrapping him, he was so upset he couldn't even hear what you were doing. He couldn't pay attention. It took him a minute to kind of recognize, oh, yeah. Now I remember. This is going to feel good. Some parents I know say the 6th S should be sleep. The 5 S's are great for calming crying babies, and they are doubly wonderful because they can also help your baby nap longer and sleep an extra hour or 2 at night. Again, inside the uterus, she was getting these wonderful, cozy sensations 24 hours a day. So when you really want her to relax and to give in, to get into a deep level of sleep, then these different S's will really help her a lot.
So I can get 2 or 3 hours at night.
Yes, or hopefully longer. Have any of you noticed that even if your baby is sleeping, they are sensitive to these changes?
He jolts.
I can't move him from wherever he's sleeping. That's it. That's where I have to stay. Like if I try to move to somewhere else and get myself comfortable, he's up and forget it.
It's like he has an aversion to his bassinet.
Right.
And I'm like, will you just sleep in the bassinet for once? And he won't stay in it. He has to sleep with us.
He has slept on me.
On me
Literally
too.
on me up until last week.
What you've discovered is that you can calm her down, you'll do all these things, but then when you put her down, she gets upset. Well, that's because you can't just put her down. You've discovered that she likes to be on top of you. That makes her feel like she's still comforted. Connected, right, exactly. You can't leave her on top of you all night long, but there are other things you can do to make her feel as if you're still holding her. That's wrapping. And as if you're still rocking with her, and that's the swing. And as if she's still inside of you, and that's some continual white noise throughout the night. But there's some babies who are really fussy babies who need the swing all night long.
Really?
And they go from waking up every 2 hours to waking up every 4 or 5 hours because the movement makes them feel reassured. Once you get him calm like this,
I could lay him down.
you might put him in the swing, and you guys have dinner, and he'll be getting more and more calm being in the swing. And then you put him into his bassinet, and if he still seems to be moving a little bit, not in a deep level of sleep, you might turn on the radio to a staticky sound between stations. With the swing, after a couple of months, you can keep her in it on the slow speed, and then you can go to no speed. With the white noise, you can gradually decrease it. The pacifier you can get rid of after 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And even the wrapping, you can phase out. With the wrapping, after 2 or 3 months, you can wrap her with one arm out and see how she does. If she starts waking herself up more often or getting more upset, you know she's not ready to have her hands out. After about a week, I went back to visit some of our parents to see how they were doing with the 5 S's. Here's what they said.
Getting that down
The
jiggle is amazing for us, because I mean it's gone from her being upset for 20 minutes, half hour, even an hour, down to just a couple minutes, and it changes your life.
The other day when I called you in tears, you're so exhausted, and then finally when you talked to me to remind me about what to do, then I was able to come and sit down and just start that jiggling, and I was just jiggling his head and letting his head jiggle in my hand, and all of a sudden it was just like miracle, like he just stopped. And he had been going for on and off for 6 hours.
The swaddling technique really did save my life.
Oh, really?
Because I was having trouble settling her down. She was fed, she was changed, she wouldn't calm down, and I swaddled her nice and tight, and she calmed right down for the balance of the evening.
So now that you've learned all these different tools, which are the ones that work the best for you and Charles?
The wrapping, the shushing, and the vacuum. The vacuum works very well with this one. He likes loud sounds.
The 5 S's have really helped us out. It's gotten me to feel from just a mom who's been winging it and trying everything that I can to help him, to actually feeling like a confident mom, and I feel like I'm doing him good. You just have to come and see him sleep at night and how peaceful he is. He couldn't be unhappy, because if he was, he wouldn't be sleeping like this.
We're with about 20 members of our family just last week who watched us do this and were in awe asking, how did you learn how to do that? Where did you learn this?
That's fantastic.
So it was great because she settled immediately. She went from screaming to just calm like this.
How was it before you learned the 5 S's?
I was lucky if I was getting an hour to an hour and a half of sleep. He would wake up every hour and a half, and
So exhausting.
oh, I was so tired.
Yeah.
And finally, when he'd go to sleep, it'd be like an hour before he'd wake up.
And what about now?
I had 4 hours of sleep last night straight through. It was amazing.
Yeah, so that was a big improvement.
Big improvement.
For the first time, she slept for 5.5 hours, which is
How long
a
did she
record.
sleep for before?
Between 2 and 3 at a stretch.
Well, let me ask you, when you first learned these techniques, what seemed the most helpful to you?
I think that some of the things you can do immediately as you're holding her, like a shush, is very, very good because you don't have to set up anything, swing or plug in a hairdryer or find the hairdryer even. You just shh, and it just immediately calms her down. Very good.
How long was she sleeping before you learned the 5 S's, and what about now that you're doing them?
Before, we would get maybe 2.5 to 3 hours. Now we're getting anywhere from 4 to 5.5.
That's great.
It's fabulous.
So again, the 5 S's is swaddle, side, shush, swing, and suck. Okay.
Congratulations. You now know the baby calming secrets used by the world's top baby calmers. But please be patient with yourselves and with your baby. Mastering these techniques is like learning to ride a bicycle. They take a few tries to get the hang of. And before you know it, you'll truly feel like you're helping your baby become the happiest baby on the block. If you'd like to learn more about how your baby sees the world, you can find more great tips and suggestions in my book, The Happiest Baby on the Block, and at my website, thehappiestbaby.com.